Namaste, everybody. Welcome to our podcast, Clarity in Similarity. Today, we have with us someone from a sea apart. And when we say a sea apart, we literally mean it because today we have with us Dr. Prabha K, who very graciously accepted our invitation to be on this small podcast. And we are very humbled by her gesture. Today, we have with us Dr. Prabha Kalikotla, who is an experienced homeopathic care provider. She holds a BHMS degree from the reputed Karnataka University, India, and she is a postgraduate diploma in homeopathic medicine, DHM, from the British Institute of Homeopathy, USA. She is also the recipient of Samuel Hahnemann Prize Award for her postgraduate studies. Dr. Prabha is also certified with the Council for Homeopathic Certification, CCH, and is listed in CHC's directory. Additionally, she is a certified first-degree Reiki healer. Dr. Prabha's in-depth homeopathic training and experience includes an apprenticeship with an experienced homeopath in Hyderabad, India, as well as working in various charitable homeopathic dispensaries, which provided her an opportunity to treat various medical conditions and diseases. So we welcome you, ma'am, to this podcast. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you, Aditya. Thanks for having me today.
Today, our main aim or the objective of today's podcast is to decipher how homeopathy came into India, even though it was a foreign topic that came into India or a foreign subject. It grew here, as we say as it was said in the first podcast. Homeopathy took its birth in Germany, but it grew as a child in India. So again, when it grew here, its propagators again went back to other countries, and then it's still spreading in a major scale. It's still propagating. So, and we are glad to have taken part in that mechanism through this podcast in a very small way. And today we have someone with us who has gone through the same experiences of homeopathy, of getting to view homeopathy through her lens from her childhood and since its conception here. So we would like to share her experiences with you today. So thank you, Dr. Prabha, for accepting to do this. What does homeopathy mean to you, and how were you affiliated with homeopathy since its inception?
Sure. So my journey into homeopathy started like very early into my life. So I was introduced into the system at a very young age, and my father was my first homeopathic doctor and my mentor, and he still continues to mentor me till date. So growing into the teen years, basically Dr. Piduru Janmohan Rao Garu, this is from World Teacher Trust Hyderabad. So he played a key role in helping me pursue my dreams and to become a professional homeopath, to go to the college and be a professional in this subject. So then it was the dream was realized with the strong will of my mother, and with the support of both my parents, I finished this medical school, from Dharwad in the year 2001. And my clinical journey, my formal clinical training, if I have to put it that way, right? It happened under the guidance of Dr. KGK Shastri Garu. So he was a retired principal of the Homeopathic Medical College. So he has a small, it's not a small, it's a huge practice in a small space, I should say. Right. So, it was a huge roaring practice, and, he gladly took us, under his wing, and he guided us through, all those learning years. So after my marriage, I came to US, and after coming here, I pursued my post-graduation in homeopathy through the British Institute of Homeopathy. And I also completed, the requirements to be certified as a, classical homeopath with the, Homeopathic Council of USA.
Right. So, looking back at your journey in homeopathy, it seems to be that you were brought up in a homeopathic environment, right?
Yes.
But today, on the other hand, contrary to this, we are also seeing that if something because in India, since an ancient time, this craft of passing down the knowledge in the family through the generations has been very successful, and this is how knowledge has been passed through the generations. Rather than writing them in books, it's the familial traditions that have passed them on. But most of the times today, this might feel cumbersome to the person who wants to pursue something else. What made you fascinated with homeopathy, and why were you interested in it in the first place? Because even though some people are in a complete environment of a certain subject, they might be frustrated by looking at it everywhere. Wherever they see, if they are seeing homeopathy, that might sometimes frustrate the individual to go away from it. But what drifted you towards homeopathy?
I think it's the beauty of the science, the way it can treat people. And literally, as I said, I grew up with the homeopathic pills. So I should say that, injection is always been a stranger to me. So that's how pretty much, so my first love with it was through, the sweet homeopathic pills. That would be the first attraction to most of the kids.
Right. Yes.
So was it for me. But growing up, as I said, when I started during the teen years, when I got into the homeopathic dispensaries through World Teacher Trust, right? There, I have seen how many people used to come there, to get the help needed. And as I said, Dr. Janmohan Rao Garu is one of the, key persons in my life, to pursue this dream. So under his guidance, under his treatment, and, he used to take homeopathic classes for, teenagers like us.
Right.
So when I started attending those classes, that system really pulled me into it. So, it became that, being, a homeopathic doctor at that point became a passion and a goal in my life.
Right. That's beautiful actually, because, the way you put it, the environment itself sucked you into its beauty, its own beauty.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Moving on, do you think, once you moved to the US, that love still persists in the same way, or has it changed? Has it modified into something more challenging?
No, actually, when I came to the US, because of all the visas and issues, I had a huge break, in my career where I had to wait for 7-8 years until I got, the permit to work in this country. But for me, fortunately, that break only helped me grow my love more towards homeopathy rather than stay away from it. So that was the time when I pursued my post-graduation. Those were the years when I got certified with the Homeopathic Council, so that by the time I got my work permit, I was ready with all the needed, requirements to do what needs to be done. Right.
That's very interesting, because in the previous episode we had a few interns over, and one of their complaints was that they don't get to practice a lot, but they have to study. Study as in whatever they have studied, they don't get to execute it. But here you are saying that even though you weren't let to practice, it only fortified your love more to the subject, right? Because you were given time to understand what it is during that time.
Yes. As the sometimes you say, right? If you keep yourself apart from something that you really long, then your love towards it, only then your love towards it will grow more and more. So my love and passion for the system grew even more, when I was kept away from not being able to do what I always wanted to.
Yes. That's wonderful. Yeah. So, once you started your practice there, and you also practiced here, what are some of the key differences that you find in your practice?
Sure. So, as there is a part of the story here which is different from India, and there is some story which is similar anywhere in the world, right?
Right.
So, but for one part, the laws and regulations of homeopathy are very different from where I came from. Okay.
Right.
In India, there is one platform where, you are allowed, this is considered a medical degree, right? You go through a formal medical training and, it is recognized, you're recognized as a medical doctor, back home. But coming to California and coming to US basically, and the laws are so different for each state, in US.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And to practice homeopathy here, you don't need a medical license specifically. Okay. This is practiced under the California Business and Professional Code. And homeopathy is recognized as a alternate or complementary to the healing arts licensed by the state. And this is mainly practiced under, there are certain rules and regulations and certain, bills under which you can practice homeopathy as an alternative medicine. So the main thing, which applies to California is called, Senate Bill 577. And under a few sections of this, with a few requirements and a few regulations in place, you can practice the system.
Right. Regarding the rules and regulations and bills, has that led to more challenging situations arising in your clinic? Do you feel that the freedom that you had here in India is being curbed a little, or has that only added to your professionalism in practice?
I should say, it's both the ways, because with the new regulations and with the new limitations came new challenges to the system. So you needed to find, what are the ways that you can adapt to, practice safely in this country, well within the laws of, its own system, right? And it also refined me as a professional, to get into the needs of the society, to follow its bylaws, to follow the laws and, to do whatever was needed to be in practice. I would say it's a challenge, and a refinement, both at the same time.
Right. That's nice. And are there any challenges getting medicines or for example, here in India, if we need globules, we go to the closest pharmacy, and we get it. Like, if you're in a remote area, it's still hard to access homeopathic pharmacy. But if you're in a town or a city, there are usually pharmacies that dispense it. Or if you need some pellets. So minor things like that. You just run out of it and you just need to get it. Is it possible to do that out there, or is it a little difficult?
It was challenging when I initially came into this country. I used to get medicines from India, or there are various, there used to be remote online options where you can order a few of the medications here and there. But off late, finding medications has becoming more easier. And, since the websites and the online economy took a jump, getting medications, at least in the past couple of years, has been very easier. And COVID has made it even more easier that, most of the platforms are online and it's easier, to get the medications than ever before.
Yes. And also talking about the environment that is there. How is there any sort of discrimination that you faced, or is it a very welcoming and supportive environment? Or does it depend on the practitioner himself to create this environment? What has been your experience with it?
Professionally, thankfully, I have not faced any discrimination based on the ethnicity or the race where I came from. And I'm a part of, Homeopathic Council here. I volunteer there and I play different roles in that organization as a volunteer. And, we were always, welcomed with open arms, and I haven't fortunately faced any such situations in my practice until now. So I think professional basis probably, I can't speak for everything and everyone here, but at least for me, it has been a very, a smooth ride there. So
Right.
Yes.
That's actually very nice, because I think the way your environment is, even if you don't let it, affects your practice, right? Because here, as you said, since homeopathy is more vigorously practiced here in India, sometimes you can get into the politics of it, and it can ruin your practice as well, as we have seen a lot of practitioners here. But there, as you very wonderfully put it, it's for you subjectively, it's been a very smooth ride, right?
Yes. Yes, at least I can speak that for myself.
Yes. And that's very nice. And it's very welcoming to know that even if we come to the US on an occasion, we have a physician there who's ready to treat us. Hopefully. Right.
Yes. I mean, most of the professional things, because people come from different walks of world, different parts of the world, right?
Yes.
And you see homeopaths who come from different ethnicities, you come from different cultures. And when you share a common platform, and if the focus is on the platform rather than, where you are from, I think working towards a common goal, will blur those differences from where you are rather than, what you're trying to do there.
Yes, very true. Very true. So in terms of the cases that you see and the cases that you are seeing here in India, what are some of the key differences that you find? And how hard is it to manage cases there and was it to manage cases here?
So in a way, probably managing cases in India is, I would say, a little easier because, the doctor is usually regarded as, it is given the, status of a god in India, right?
Yes.
So, if the doctor says you feel better, obviously, at least the word itself is, it helps heal the people. And because of various, people come from rural areas, people come from civilized, from cities, from, there are educated, there are uneducated people. So the group of, the groups that you deal with are very wide. And, mostly when you deal with rural populations, they're, pretty much ignorant of what is going on with them. Right?
Yes.
So not much questions asked in those situations about, why you're doing, what you're doing this, and, where does it lead you to? Yes. But dealing with, especially the area that I am in, I'm in Bay Area of California, and mostly people are, professionals, and, they are very well educated. They know what's going on. They're the masters of Google these days. So when such people, when such people see you, they need a lot of information, they need a lot of explanation what's going on with them. They have a lot of questions. They need to understand what is the kind of system that you're working with. What does it do for them, right? What medications am I taking? Why am I taking them? What will happen if I don't do it? What will happen if I do it? So they need a lot of information.
Yes.
So that is basically, the first striking difference between India and, situations here. And the area that I am in, it's as I said, it's mostly, professionals and highly intellectuals, right?
Yes.
So the set of diseases you deal are also pertaining to that category.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So like in homeopathic, what we call as a high-end living, right? Those are the kind of cases that you deal with. There is a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of stress. You deal with loss of sleep. There are financial ups and downs, right? People come with, brain fag because of intellectual nature. They come with a lot of brain fag. ADHD, doctor, I can't seem to focus on anything these days. So these are the kind of things that you see in a very high-end society.
Right.
And even when it comes to the, food part, right? The high-end living brings its own set of stomach disturbances with its own kind of, complications around it. So those are the kind of things that I mainly deal with in terms of, people. And if you are you looking for any, conditions that, medical conditions?
If you have a specific set of cases where they're very, very specific to your practice, it's fine. Or else this is fine, no problem.
Okay. No, there are certain things that I deal specifically with, which are slightly different from Indian this thing. But if you want, I can share them as well.
Sure, no problem. Yes, it would be lovely. No problem.
Okay, sure. So, mostly in this country, the kind of medical conditions that I deal with are there with food allergies, different kinds of skin disorders, right? Lot of respiratory issues, lot of seasonal issues, and in this country, flu is a big thing, right? Every seasonal change, comes to October, November, is a flu season, which runs all the way until March, April. So flu-related complaints are a major part of it. And acidity, GERD disorders, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's is one thing, which is on the rise in a very drastic level these days, at least in the amount of practice that I see. Thyroid disorders have been on their rise, compared to last 10 years. If you have to see in the last 4 or 5 years, you see like even small kids with, high TSH levels with a lot of thyroid disturbance, which are coming up of late. And autism spectrum is something, that I deal with, very commonly in my practice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in a way, I think when the patient asks more questions, in a way, it is more comforting for the physician because he only gets to elicit more information when the patient asks more questions, which is more helpful to us as homeopathic practitioners, right?
Yes. It's both, teaching and learning as well, because you need to help them understand what the homeopathic healing process is, because there are times where, especially when it comes to skin conditions, right? People who see me are mostly, they come in a stage where there is a lot of steroid suppression. Right. And if you have to help them understand the healing process, that you need to take away the steroid or you need to taper it down and let the rash come out to be cleared out.
Right.
So, as I said, because of the living in a high-end environment, the endurance is very less in the society. So people basically look for a quick fix, something which they can get in, get out, they look for magic, they look for wonders.
Right. True. Yes. And since you spoke about allergies and since lactose intolerance and gluten allergy are a huge concern in the US, from a homeopathic perspective, is there any specific reason for these allergies? Because these allergies didn't exist in the past 2 decades and suddenly they're all on the rise. Have you seen any pattern or any specific cause for the rise in these allergies?
I think, this is my personal opinion on this, but the way, the milk is produced, right? The GMOs of how the wheat has changed over a period of time. It's all modified for commercial uses. So when all these things are changed, I think end of the line, it makes some difference on the human system. Though it goes through so much of a rigorous process, it's still at a, when you put it out into a large public, right? There comes, a wide amount of disparity.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So along with that, the suppression of the skin problems, right? The more you suppress them, the more they reflect on your immunity part.
Right. So Sora is still holds good after 400 years, still leading to new disease. Yes,
of course.
and
Yes.
in the application of your treatment, how easy do you find? Because even here we still have the same problem. If it's a skin condition, they want something as an ointment externally, and
Yes.
still have the problem of having to explain to them why it is not required, and as you said, the homeopathic healing process. And is the approach to the patient there stubborn practice, or is it easier since they're more literate and since they have information more easily? Is it easier, or does it get only more difficult?
I think the more educated they are, the more it becomes difficult, because when they go to a, allopathic physician, right? If they say, just apply something, it'll disappear from the skin. And this is where all the social stigma comes in. Right? So when you talk about professionals who has to go to work, they're like, I can't let my skin show anything. It needs to be perfect. I need to look perfect. I need to speak perfect.
Yes.
So then, when it comes to the health challenges, even though they understand it as a process of detoxification in their system, to maintain it on a day-to-day level, coping up with the challenges of the society will become, challenging on both the ends. It's not only on the doctor's end, but unfortunately, because of the amount of suppression that they come to you with, when you start to unfold the case, there is so much of it which comes out, which is a shocker to the, even the homeopath himself. It's like, oh my God, you have suppressed it over decades of time. And to put up with so much, to put up with the way how your skin looks, the amount you put up with the itching, the amount of time it takes to come out of it, it's challenging on both the ends.
Right. And on the same note, is it easier to elicit mental generals there, or are the people a little more withholding, a little more secretive than they are here? Because in a rural setup, they just say, what is the point of all this? Just give me medicine here. And we need to again explain to them why it is required and get acquainted with the patient a lot more than say somebody from the city, because they understand that yes, these are essential psychosomatic disorders are real. How is the situation there? Is it the same, or is it contrary to this?
I would say it's pretty much the same, but when it comes to gaining the emotional or the mental trust of the patient, that's where the art and the beautiful art of case taking comes into play. Right?
Yes.
You need to help them understand that emotional and mental history is part of their physical health. And when we're talking at a root level, if we help them understand that physical is just a end effect and not the beginning point for all these troubles, right? And if you take it back, if you trace back their steps to suppose each case, if it is because of stress, if it is because of change in life situations, if you can show them that flow chart, then at least to a certain point, you can gain their trust to open up, at least to the needed extent in the first one or two situations.
Yes.
And as they start to feel better, of course, more amount of information starts to flow in.
Yes.
But the first consultation is where you need to gain the trust of the patient to make sure, at least you get enough to get the case started.
Right. Yeah. Going back to the point of food and medicine, what difficulties do you face with the difference in the food habits that exist there in comparison to the food habits that are here in India? Does it come in between your treatment and the results that you get, or does it not matter?
Oh, food is basically, it's the main thing to health, right? Dietary issues should be the first thing in preventive medicine for person not to get sick.
Yes.
So,
Right.
being in a culture like this, I mean, I wouldn't say it's just the Bay Area or just the US, but I think this has becoming, this is a fast growing global problem that, the fast foods, rich foods, basically, lack of understanding about what good food is, what a healthy diet is, right?
Yes.
It is a challenge, to my knowledge, this has been a challenge throughout the world. Okay.
Yes.
From understanding that, the basic attitude towards food has changed so much. From a healthy eating, we have become, people have become conscious to the point of calorie counting. Everything you
Yes.
put on the plate, you count the calories, what you're putting on the plate. Right?
Yes.
So the basic perception of how you see the food has become calories, and it's no longer, the food needed to drive this body.
Yes.
It's all
Yes.
about how much you can, stay in shape, what can be eaten, what can be eaten. So with all this change, and especially being in a area like, California, because you see mixed ethnicities, right?
Right.
So you can
Right.
find food from all parts of the world, and it's very easily
Yes.
available. So people
Yes.
dive into, excessive eating. There is indulgence all the time. There is
Right.
eating at odd timings.
Yes.
Eating foods which doesn't suit them, even to make them understand that staying
Right.
away, from a fast food or food that upsets the stomach, it's
Right.
very hard to explain them, because people most of the times ask me like, it's easy to eat whatever I want and take a pill. Why should I stay away from it?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So to make them understand, when so much of food is available, at their,
Yes.
fingertips, it's very challenging, even for kids also. There is so much of junk stuff available for them.
Yes. Yes.
And, it's very hard to make a child understand why, when so many things are available on the shelf, they can pick and eat anything and everything.
Yes. Yes.
So unless that, that basic knowledge of the food is imparted to this generation, health will be a very challenging process, and especially diseases will continue to be on the rise.
Right. Right. Very, very beautifully worded. And again, in the same sense, since you see a lot of people coming from the background of high pressure jobs and a lot of stress, what kind of a role does there, because since it is the same situation that we are seeing here, with more focused jobs and with more focused linearities that they get into, they're moving away from the familial and traditional values and cultural values here in India, which translates there supposedly to depression and emotional changes, as you put earlier on. And what kind of a role does the family play in their healing along with the medicine?
As Hahnemann says, that's the maintaining cause.
Right. Yes.
So in dealing with cases of depression, psychological disorders, family environment plays a major role. You can only keep the, with the medication, only a part of the story can be achieved. But these are the cases where counseling takes a major role, and I would say 80% of my practice is more counseling, along with the medication than anything else. Because of, the family support not being here, right? Say a husband is working 24/7 somewhere, a wife is at home taking care of the kids, or, kids have their own difficulties, or when kids get into teenage, they have different kind of challenges that they face. They bring all those problems back to the family. Right. It's more of a social situation. It's like everything is intertwined with each other.
Right.
So unless you counsel the entire family and, give them the way of, make them understand what a healthy living is, what are the benefits of eating, healthy food. And especially teens, it's a very challenging thing, they're very they're very conscious of how they look. They're very conscious of, what they eat, bulimia, all these disorders. Either you see bulimic states or you see obesity, and both of them contribute equally to mental and emotional challenges.
Right. Yes.
So it's very, I think counseling should play a major role in this, so that at least improving all the people in the family through counseling, though you're treating the person, will help at least, ease away the maintaining costs.
Right. Moving on from this topic, we would like to ask you a little bit of an inspirational quote since we are very new practitioners who just started out with their practice. We would like you to say a few words in inspiration to the generation that is coming now, because your journey inspires a lot of us, since a lot of people think that homeopathy is very restrictive and they can't make a living out of it, neither is it very satisfactory. We want you to say a few words in regard to these people who fall out of their practice because of these reasons.
Sure. Homeopathy, as truly said by Hahnemann, it's an art. Okay. The more you unfold it, the more you see in different perspectives, the more you hear the stories. You understand each person, as a remedy. You see the beauty in it. You associate with the system. Then, as the medication, as the system starts to unfold, until you find your first few cures, it is a little bit of a challenge. And, I would say most of the people would start out that way. I had my own challenges too. I was like, will I ever be able to succeed in whatever I'm doing, with the system? Right. But as you gain the knowledge, as you understand the system, as the beauty of it starts to unfold, it is a true passion and, worth, having to spend the rest of your life loving.
Thank you very much for spending this time with us. And I think your example will inspire how many more people who listen to our podcast, and here's to hoping that a new homeopathic generation brings about a revolution in the system for a positive direction. Right? Thank you so much. Thank you, Prabha.
Nice talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.